I want to talk a little bit about some important topics such as courage, leadership, compassion, and love. On August 3rd, our community was attacked by someone with racist, murderous intent and came here to our community and massacred family members, friends, loved ones, and El Pasoans, fronterizos. It's a day that will be marked in our history forever. And it's in our hearts and in our minds, and will continue to be so until action is taken. On that day, this individual drove over 10 hours, 600 miles from North Texas, to come to a Walmart in our community, the Walmart that I shop at, and went in, looked around, went back to his vehicle, uploaded a racist manifesto, and proceeded to enter the Walmart and fire on innocent people who were just going about their daily lives. We can all relate to that, because today we woke up to come here to enjoy a day, whether it's TEDxElPaso or Chalk the Block or whatever it may be, never intending to be gunned down by a hateful person. But that's the reality that we live in this country. And statistically, it's going to happen again and again and again. So we have to talk about things like leadership and courage, about compassion and love. Because when this happened in our community, we saw all of these characteristics unfold. And I think in many ways, it was elegantly unfolded by our community. I remember I was at home getting ready to run some errands that day, and I have alerts on Twitter from the El Paso Police Department. And many of us saw the alerts, many of us received text messages and emails, Facebook posts saying, be careful, there's an active shooter in the Cielo Vista Mall area. As soon as I saw the alert, I put on my shoes and I drove to my district office, which is literally blocks away from the shooting site, to begin to figure out what I can do as a public leader to help my community. The first thing I did was contacted our Speaker of the House. And immediately, he provided assistance. He provided me the cell phone number of the head of the state police. I contacted the state police, and they provided me briefings of what occurred. I received information before the public received information. And that's when I learned that many people were killed and that the individual had been apprehended. Then I received a call from the governor, and the governor expressed his condolences and immediately said, Cesar, I'm on my way to El Paso to figure out what we can do as a state. Right after that, I immediately decided to figure out where the Family Reunification Center is. That's the process under emergency management where families can go to figure out where their loved ones are, whether they're alive or whether they're deceased, etc. And unfortunately, it was in my elementary school, MacArthur Elementary. And it's horrifying to go into a school, a safe place, a place that I had fond memories as a child, and walk into a room where family members have a look of shock, despair, anxiety, and sorrow in our community. As a leader, it's difficult to be in those scenarios because what do you say? What do you do? As an elected official, there is no handbook for these type of tragedies. There's nowhere you can go to say, what do I do next? But I learned that being present was important. As the day went on, the governor came to El Paso. We connected right away and we received a briefing of what transpired. And throughout the day, I spent the day with the governor, myself, and my colleague, Speaker Joe Moody. And we spent many hours in that vehicle together talking about the need to take action. Because people are dying, literally dying at the hands of deranged, hateful people with the use of weapons. And there was an agreement between the governor, myself, and my buddy Joe that something had to be done. We spent the day together. We met with the mayor later on that day, and the mayor was with us various parts throughout the day. And we all came to the same conclusion that something has to happen, keeping in mind that we were in shock. Because we all see these scenarios unfold before our eyes on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, but it's never real until it hits you in your own community. When you hear about people and their stories and the victims, it hits home. Will it happen at home? And the unfortunate truth is that it's going to continue to happen unless action is taken. Now, it's important to note that El Paso is a very unique place in this world, and its people are what make it unique. Nowhere else can you go to Walmart and you're at the checkout counter and the checkout lady says, "Is that all, mijo? Do you need anything else?" That's El Paso. We're a big city, but we're family united. We all relate to each other. We're at quinceañeras and weddings and all kinds of events. And we're very tight-knit. And I want to talk a little bit about that because it relates to compassion and love. First of all, when this unfolded, when I went to the Family Reunification Center, I saw instances of compassion and love throughout those 30 days that we worked continuously. And at the Family Reunification Center, we saw people bringing water, people bringing food, mental health providers that were off duty, just there to provide assistance to the families. We heard the stories of El Pasoans fighting for their lives in hospitals, bleeding to death, and lines of El Pasoans wrapping around a building to donate blood in 100-degree weather. So much so that they had to turn people away because they had sufficient quantities of blood. We heard the stories of the first responders who showed up immediately and worked the scene to save so many lives. The hospitals, the nurses, the physicians in the emergency rooms that spent hours, the nurses who came from all over the city off duty just to show up to help. We heard the stories of the amounts of money that people were contributing to the Paso del Norte Foundation and the El Paso Community Foundation for Victims Assistance Fund. Millions of dollars raised, not only from El Pasoans, but from people all over the world. We also saw firsthand the memorial, the makeshift memorial, that still stands with candles, photos, rosaries, and a variety of things to commemorate the lives of those that were lost. The story of the county medical examiner who worked 30-plus hours to make sure that those families received their loved ones and could bury their loved ones and not have a drawn-out process. This individual worked all that time so that there wasn't a huge gap, so that the loved ones can receive their families. That's El Paso. That's our community. That's who we are as a community. Compassionate, loving, caring individuals. Even the smallest things. When I went to do television interviews, I remember Anderson Cooper was eating a raspa, shaved ice. Because an individual just set up a shaved ice thing, and they were giving the reporters shaved ice because it was so hot. I remember a pregnant lady who, I think, I'm not a physician, but I think she was going to give birth any time, at any moment. But she told us that she does makeup. That's her skill. And she wanted to come and provide a service, no charge, to everyone there who was doing interviews to be helpful. We heard the reporters who were receiving food. We heard about El Pasoans buying tents to cover the police officers who were out there in the sun. These are stories of compassion. These are stories of our community that we should be proud of. And we are proud of it. Because in the face of the worst, El Paso demonstrated its best. Now, we can't just leave it there. When I went to the Interfaith Vigil at Ponder Park, the same field where I played third base in Little League, we heard messages of hope. We heard messages of unity. But we also heard the message and the call for courage. The courage to stand up to do what's right. Now, this isn't a Republican or a Democratic issue. This is an issue and an opportunity in our time to lead, to do something, to keep our communities safe. Because at the fundamental element of leadership is to keep our communities safe. No society should start their school year with active shooter drills for little kids. No society, especially a developed nation, should deal with an epidemic of violence that we're seeing all across our country. In the state of Texas, every 3 hours, someone is killed by a gun. Every year in Texas, over 3,000 people are killed, whether it's suicide or murder, by a gun. Last year it was 3,100. That's more casualties than the war in Afghanistan, in our own state. Now, I understand politics, and I understand that there are a lot of political forces at play. But we only have one shot to get things right, to take care of our elderly, kids, those innocent people that were at the cash registers, the senior citizens that had their daily routine to go to the McDonald's and have a cup of coffee. So, the state is taking action. The governor has convened a Texas Public Safety Commission, which I am a part of. The lieutenant governor and the speaker of the House have convened select committees on public hearings to identify solutions for mass violence. And there's studies, and there's a variety of things that our state can do and our communities can do. But I have hope that courage is what's guiding us. Courage to do the things that generations before us have done as elected leaders. To choose people over politics. To choose something as fundamental as a life over things. I'm not saying that we should go and take everyone's guns away from them. But I am saying that we need sensible solutions to stop this type of mass violence. We owe it to the victims, not only in El Paso, but the victims in Santa Fe, the victims in Odessa, and the victims all over the country. We can do this, but it takes courage. Now, we've seen how El Paso has reacted in the face of tragedy. And we've led with friendship, love, with compassion. And I think the time has come for our elected leaders to do the same. Because it's our responsibility and it's our moment in this time in history to do what's right. Generations before us, the World War II generation, for which I have family who served in World War II, volunteered, risked their lives, led into battle so that our communities would be safe in the United States. During the Great Depression, the government stepped in to help, making sure that people wouldn't go hungry, that there were infrastructure projects in place so people can receive work and earn a living. After 9/11, we had an opportunity to keep our communities safe, and we took action to do that. There's no reason why we can't act now to keep our communities safe. And it's our opportunity to do so. But in many instances, and especially in this one, I think there's an opportunity for you all to be an active participant in that process. To hold us accountable, to hold elected leaders who you elect, to make these decisions to keep our community safe. It doesn't have to be political. This is about right or wrong, about safe or unsafe. And we can do this. Why? Because we've seen the power of our community. We've seen how love overcomes hate. We've seen that this individual who massacred members of our community will not break us. The hate will not break us. Love will overcome. Compassion will overcome. Because El Paso has demonstrated that. The country is watching how we react. And I think the world can learn something because El Paso is El Paso strong. Thank you.